can see, I'm in downtown Toronto. That there is the CN Tower. And if we look over here, this is the CBC building, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. I used to work there for a little while, just on a project. Did they pay me? I think they paid me. Paid me a little bit. Anyhow, just around the corner here from the Hot Docs Festival. And I'm just taking a little bit of time out in between films. And I thought I would make a video. So I'm gonna maybe find somewhere to sit down and we can talk about how the festival's been going and the reception of the film, the reception of the trailer. Just trying to avoid being killed here. What can I say? So, you know, this is one of the largest film festivals in Canada. Maybe I'll just sit here for now. Get us going. Excuse me. So, it's, I think I read somewhere the other day that Hot Docs is the second largest documentary film festival in the world. I'm not sure if it still is, though, because it seems like the festival has been suffering a little bit. It's gone through a little bit of a financial crisis. I think they lost some of their large funders. And that's basically meant that the number of films that have been screening here at the festival has dropped probably by half, I'm going to say. So that's kind of cast a bit of a pall over the festival. The other thing for me is that, you know, I signed up for the industry festival, or conference rather. It's a 2-day conference in the middle of the screening festival itself. And it's kind of where all the producers and the broadcasters and distributors, the directors, of course, like me, show up and try to drum up interest for their film, try to sell their film, pre-sell their film. I won't get into all the insider banter about the industry, but it's an industry conference. Let me leave it at that. And so over 2 days, there's some informal time where you can meet people and kind of pitch your film. If you haven't had a chance, I recorded a podcast with my pal Erwin Cindy from Vancouver. So check that out if you want to hear a little bit more about what it means to pitch a project. So there's some informal time, there's some receptions, and then there's some industry panels, right? So your typical kind of conference. So I was there, I was prepared, you know, I've got the trailer, what else? I made a flyer, you know, with a link, a QR code to the trailer, had a little bit of pitch text in it as well. Beep, beep. And so what happened? So I think the first day was a discussion with some broadcasters. And the broadcasters are, of course, they're like the top of the food chain. This is where your film gets seen, right? This is your PBS, your POV, your Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, ARTA, and France, SBS in Korea. Anyway, so there's international broadcasters around the room, but they're all very, how to put it, are they unapproachable? I don't know if they're unapproachable. They don't seem to have a lot of time for directors. But anyway, I did my best. I went out and talked to a couple folks, and one of the producers there kind of gave me a funny look, and the other one actually asked me a set of questions. So I thought, okay, well, that's positive, you know. That was good. Asked me a little bit about Rachel, the main subject of the film, and kind of what her take what her take is on Trump now that he's been going on and on about Canada being the 51st state, you know. So that was an interesting discussion. But I was more interested in meeting some people who are distributors, and so there was a panel on distributors. And beforehand, I'd emailed a few folks, and one of the more interesting distributors in Canada actually replied right away. Had viewed the trailer, and said they were interested. So that was the big news, right? Distributors are the ones who what do they do? Garbage truck. They're the ones who open the doors. They're the ones who find broadcasters. They're the ones who find a place, a streaming platform for audiences to see your film. So having a good distributor, having the backing of a good distributor is really crucial, right? They're the ones with all the links. Again, the ones who can open the doors. So that was really exciting. I think that was one of the most exciting things that happened over the course of last week is kind of having a conversation, albeit a beginning conversation with a distributor, and then we're going to talk about the rough cut in a few days' time. So that's really exciting. So that's a distributor. The other thing I was trying to do here at the festival was meet with some other film festival programmers, because as some of you may know, film festivals is where the community, the industry come together. A lot of publicists come, a lot of media and film journalists. So it's where all the hype happens, right? So if you have a film in one of the big festivals, then that obviously increases the visibility of your film. And I would say that the people that I contacted who are the programmers for documentary film, and not just documentary film festivals, but also some other international film festivals, all seemed very positive and encouraging about the film that I'm putting together. And so we're talking some of the major film festivals around the world. So that was really positive. A friend of mine a number of years told me that that I shouldn't just be submitting my film again through the website. There's a portal. It's called Film Freeway, and if you search on it, that's where almost all the film festivals around the world encourage you to submit your film, put a screener up there, put all the information for the programming committee up there. But for example, the film festival here in Toronto, the Hot Docs one, I was told by an insider a number of years back that 95% of the films that are shown at the festival do not go through that process, right? That kind of anonymous process. They are all films that have been funded, in part by the film festival, funded by others. They're well known to the programmers. So there's a whole kind of, well, what are we going to call it, folks? Like schmooze, a schmooze economy that needs to happen for your film to fit into that kind of pre-programmed 95%. So in years past, I would be very lucky to make that 5%, and I was at a number of film festivals, right? But I guess that was one of my number one things I wanted to do here at the Hot Docs Film Festival, was to make some contacts, introduce the story, share some of the images, share the trailer with people who are going to be programming film festivals in 3, 6, 9, 12 months from now. So that was quite positive. I had a lot of good feedback. So exciting. That's exciting. What else has happened? People are really busy. Yeah, there's something really bizarre about film festivals. Everyone's running, right? No one has time for you. And people often don't answer emails. It's a totally different environment, right? People don't answer emails, but then if they see you, They'll stop you, be like, "Hey, I saw your trailer." So it's a seen and be seen, scenester environment. Not quite. I'm not quite used to it. I'm a little more sober and not so social when it comes to my work. Anyway, so there's that. What else can I tell you? There was a really funny panel where all the distributors were on, and again, these are the people who are basically selling your film to broadcasters and the Netflix and the Amazon Primes of the world, but including one of the distributors who's interested in my film. But the person who was moderating the panel, the distributors panel, uh, like the first question that she asked to the panel was, how much money should filmmakers expect to make off of their film? And I don't know what it is. This is the third time I've been to a documentary film industry conference, and it just seems like money. There is no money, right? There's so not money. The number of films per year that make a profit are absolutely minuscule, right? So I just thought it was really awkward. You have a full room. It was a packed room. It was like, I don't know, 100 people in the room. And the moderator just kept on coming back to, oh, well, how much money what's your commission that you take from a sale of a film, and no one wanted to answer that. And then she just kept on coming back, and it was really awkward how each one of the distributors were just basically saying the same thing over and over, which is there's very little money to be made making documentary films. I'd heard that story. I'd heard that answer many years ago, so I was prepared for it. But it stands in such stark contrast to a lot of other industries and a lot of other conferences I go to. Right, like here, there's a certain, how to put it, there's a certain kind of brutal honesty. Right, it's kind of, if you're here because you want to tell stories, right? If you're here, this is a word that's way overused, but you're passionate about what it is that you're doing, right? You like to work with people, you like the artistry of documentary filmmaking. You're just not here to make money. You shouldn't lose money. I'm definitely going to lose money, but you don't want to lose too much. So anyway, so it's so that kind of brutal honesty it always kind of makes me chuckle, because there's always a little bit of a downer in the room, when you're sitting in a conference room, and it's kind of like an admission over and over. It's like, there is no money in this industry. So there's that. The other really awkward moment was during the broadcasters panel. And there was someone there from, I think he was one of the directors or the executive director of the documentary series POV, which is a PBS broadcast series in the United States. And after all of the international folks had a chance to chitty chat on the panel, they turned to this fellow from PBS, or from POV, and he said, well, we're doing this. We're looking for these types of films. We've been going for this many years. And he said, but I think what's really on our agenda is a complete collapse of our revenue stream, right? And not 48 hours later, I woke up this morning and I saw that President Trump has, I think last night actually, issued an executive order killing all the public funding for PBS and NPR. NPR is a radio station, PBS is the public television station, or network I should say, in the United States. So rewind 2 days ago, and again the air just goes out of the room when the PBS executive talks about the future funding catastrophe which is about to beset his organization. I think he thought that that was going to come in the form of a bill in the Congress that was going to cut or substantially cut the funding to PBS and NPR. But it looks like Trump has kind of, like with many other issues, kind of sidetracked the Congress and made an executive order. So that's something to watch. PBS is, they've done some good stuff over the years. It's slightly liberal, I think, and I find it a bit milquetoast, if you will, over the years. And I guess that's really one of the, just to wrap up my chat here before I run off and go see another film. I guess that's one of my main concerns with coming to an industry film festival is how to pitch a controversial film, right? I don't want to make a boring film. I don't want to make a uninspiring film. My films are controversial. They're difficult. They hopefully get the audience to ask difficult questions of themselves, their community, their family, their politicians, and so on and so forth, right? So, but unfortunately, particularly today, the industry is in such bad shape because there's no revenue. The broadcasters, as I was just saying, PBS and many others just don't have the budgets, and they're losing the audiences to the streaming channels, right? There's so much content. There has not been as much documentary content as there is being produced now, right? So we're in a glut at the same time that the revenues and that the places to see these films have just kind of collapsed, if you will. So in that environment, what does that mean for a film or a story that that's difficult, that's controversial, that's hard to summarize in a pitch, right? And that's kind of what I'm purposefully moving into, that space, right? I want to make a controversial film. I want it to shake people up. But once you do that, you lose these what is left, unfortunately, of the industry. So I'm having to do a little bit of a higher wire act in trying to talk about the significance of this story in the context of what we're all living through politically, socially, and now economically around the world. So there we go. So that's been my experience over the last few days. I've seen some good films. There's a few influencers here that I added to my channel that are obviously being invited to film festivals, folks who have over 1 million followers who are doing reviews of festivals. I think there's only, one or two. Toronto is a city of over 3 million people, more than that if you count the suburbs and everything, and there's really only a couple journalists who focus on film, who are basically media critics, right? So again, with everything changing, the introduction of YouTube and streaming platforms, you also have a fundamental change in the way in which people hear about and read about documentary films. So that was really interesting to hear from and talk to a couple of the social media influencers. I think one was on YouTube and another was on Instagram. And they're part of the promotional apparatus now, right? They're obviously making money from this. They're being flown around the world. They're working hard. They're creating a lot of content. And I guess, it's a good thing, right? They are pushing people to go and see documentary films. So I guess I can't be too critical. Maybe some of the analysis is not terribly interesting, informed, or nuanced, but whatever. That's the snobby side of me coming out. Anyway, I think I'm gonna leave it at that because yeah, there's another film in 15 minutes, so I'm gonna run, and I'll see if I'll update folks on the weekend to kind of go through what's happened, some of the successes and some of the mega failures I had trying to pitch my film, the TV show, to producers and broadcasters and distributors here at the Hot Docs International Film Festival here in Toronto. There we go. In fact, there's the screenings are just right over there. So I'm going to head over there and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.